Hello from Blue Willow Bookshop in Houston, Texas. I am Kathy Berner, the event coordinator at the shop, and someone Robin Goodfellow may have called a slightly less irritating mortal. My colleagues and I are honored to host this virtual event celebrating the publication of Alexis Hall's new novel, Mortal Follies. Thanks so much to our partners at Del Rey and Penguin Random House for working with us on this event. Let's welcome the amazing Alexis Hall to the conversation.
I'm terribly sorry, Mortal. Mr. Hall couldn't be here today.
Oh, Robin Goodfellow, am I speaking with you?
You are.
So how are you today?
Miserable. I'm exiled to this world of spit and filth. How are you?
I'm fine. I bet you are not enjoying the temperatures on your continent right now, are you?
I am not. No, I'm not accustomed to having to feel temperatures.
Can you tell us what form you are right now?
Currently, I'm in the form of a mortal novelist. What other form would I be in? If this is the quality the questions are going to have, then I'm afraid I may have to leave.
Well, you know, instead of having you leave, what I would really prefer to do is borrow something from the ambassador. I think you know the words.
If I must. I swear by oak, by ash, and by thorn, by both sides of the sky, by the beard of Zeus and the blood of Christ, that I shall abide by all the laws and customs of the house I am about to enter. There, does that satisfy you?
It does.
You don't think I put the real words in the book, do you? You ignorant creature.
I'm just going by what I have.
That's exactly what I was hoping for.
I am doing the best I can, which I suspect is not enough for you, but you have called me slightly less irritating than the novelist who is theoretically here to see us.
Yes, I have. It's a low bar.
Fair. But Robin, do you like my nails?
Oh, they're rather lovely by mortal standards.
They're not fairy made. I couldn't get any mermaids involved, but I did the best I could.
Oh, you should go and look. There are several off the coast of your continent, although I suppose you're rather far from the sea in Texas, aren't you?
Well, I could drive down to Galveston and see if there's any mermaids down there who would be happy to help me with my nail color. I don't want to disturb them though. I feel like that's asking too much.
I think it's worth a try and definitely wouldn't go wrong.
Oh, no, of course not. I'm sure you think that's a fine idea. No, thank you. Can Alexis please join us?
I'll see if he's available.
Thank you.
Hi, hello everybody. Love the nails. How are you?
I adore you. I am fine. How are you?
I am all right. It is actually, by UK standards, really hot over here. Although tomorrow we're going to have storms, so we might flood. So it's, it's always one or the other.
I completely understand. I do have air conditioning, but it's 95 US Fahrenheit, which is 35 Celsius for y'all. And it's going to be like this for the next 2.5 or 3 weeks.
Oh dear. Yeah, no, it's going to be warm in here for about 6 minutes, and then it's going to rain for the rest of the year until it snows in June.
Wonderful. Well, Alexis, congratulations on the publication of Mortal Follies. I loved it so much.
Thank you so much.
For those of you who haven't been with us before on an event, I'm very lucky in that I get to work with the publishers and they send me a copy of the book early. So I read it once, like gobbling up as fast as I can. And then I listen to it and then I do a close read again. And every time I experience this world, it is better than the time before.
Oh, thank you.
I will also tell you that I had to keep a running list of words I did not know.
I mean, some of them are made up, to be fair.
I don't care. It was still fun. I enjoyed the exercise. And my favorite word is iridescence.
Oh, thank you.
You are very welcome.
That one I didn't make up. That's a real word.
I know. I was Googling and looking up in the dictionary and I expanded my vocabulary. So thank you. And once again, everybody who has seen us before, yes, I did tab it. Yes, it kind of matches my nails. It makes me happy. I also want everybody to know that I reread Midsummer Night's Dream, the No Fear Shakespeare version. because I take this very seriously.
That's entirely fair. Oh God, you've probably got more research than I have in that case.
I doubt it. I really highly doubt it. Let's talk about the audio for a minute. Nneka Okoye,
She is so good. She is amazing.
she is so amazing. And I saw that you and Mary posted that she's already received an audiophile earphones award for this book.
Yes, because she's great.
She's great. And the mischief and the slyness.
That's exactly why I went with her, because she really got the manic chaos energy.
She absolutely did. And also, I just, oh, wow. I'm going to listen to it again. This is going to be one of my, I have my re-listens. This is joining the re-listen club. I absolutely adored it.
It's really good in audio.
It is so fantastic. I just also have to say, on the surface, Queer Magical Bridgerton, if Midsummer Night's Dream were canon, narrated by Puck/Robin Goodfellow, is the easiest pitch in the world. So thank you for that. And it's a wonderfully engaging story. And it's also an opportunity, as with all of your books, for me to dig deeper.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
And there's so you've seen the tabs. There's so many things, places for me to think further and remind myself of history and see the Shakespearean connections. It's just an utter joy to read.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I love the characters. I love the characters.
Fantastic.
Miss Fickle and Mr. Cesar. The fact that they're foils to Malus as well as to each other, I absolutely adored. And I'm very, very much hoping that we will see more of both of them in the future.
We should do, yes. It's one of those things, as always with publishing, nothing is set in stone. Book two is a set in stone as it gets in publishing. Book three depends on numbers, so please buy the book.
This is going to be the hand sell for the whole staff the rest of the year. This is their job. But one of the things, and I'm just throwing this out there to everybody who's listening, because Alexis, you have amazing fans who do amazing creative things. And if anyone wants to create like a family tree of all three of the main characters and their ancestors and how they're intertwined, I would love to see it. So, friends, please do that. Someone do it. Post it somewhere. Make it look nice. Be kind, and we'll all be good. Also, another question for you. Will we see the ambassador again?
Should you? Yes, he'll be in and out.
Excellent. Another thing that I really loved was how the veil between magic and reality is so thin, and how you interwove them seamlessly.
Oh, thank you.
When we're going between the worlds, and how there's dresses created by fairies, and like the made by mermaid hair, the practicality of that.
It is good for bathing.
It is good for bathing. But it was just, of course, it's the kind of thing that I know takes work to develop such a beautiful story that so intertwines so many things. By the time we read it, it feels like it's seamless.
Oh, thank you.
You are welcome. And P.S., you're doing very well accepting compliments today. Congratulations.
I know. I'm just trying to throw the bingo off. I'd be amazed if the tries to throw the bingo off bingo square, but
Oh my. So let's go back kind of to the beginning of Mortal Follies. What's the germ of the idea for this one?
I mean, as always, so the really cynical germ of the idea is Bridgerton got really big, and I was like, well, there should probably be some way to jump on this, hence the Queer Magic Bridgerton pitch. And then it goes to, well, how do you do magic in a Regency setting? And I say this, let's be super clear, magic in a Regency setting is not at all a new thing. There's been a whole bunch of people who've done magical Regency things. And something I happened to be vaguely aware of, because it's a thing you find out if you go and do the tours, is that the bathhouse is a bath that you can go and visit in Bath, really do have an old Roman temple under them that was a temple to Julius Minerva, and there really are curse tablets. You can go and see curses. Oh yeah, that's a real thing. You can go and see curses that Roman people like laid on. It was always people who'd stolen stuff. That was the deal. It was like if you go to the baths and someone nicks your toga, then you kind of write a curse saying, you know, dear Julius Minerva, curse this man who stole my toga, basically. And so that went to okay, so you could do regency, but also have kind of classical mythology woven into that, and then that went to. So one of the things that I've always found interesting, the reason that one of the other parts, the various pictures are queer magic religion or what if Midsummer Night's Dream was canon, is one of the things I like about Shakespeare is because it's kind of set, because it's written in the 16th, 17th century. There's a lot of just implied supernatural stuff that is just kind of seen as just kind of part of the world.
Mhm.
One thing I think is really interesting about the time actually is because we're just at the end of the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation and the Counter-Reformation. Weirdly, it was a lot safer to talk about classical religion than to talk about Christianity, because if you talk about, you know, Zeus or whatever, everyone's okay. Well, or you know, I suppose Jupiter because Rome. There's a whole lot of kind of classical culture that you can allude to that isn't related to Catholicism, which was bad or good depending on who was queen at the time,
Right.
and also isn't related to anything else that might get you, you know, just locked in the tower or burned at the stake. So you wind up with this weird thing where a lot of Shakespeare has this weird, almost magical stuff woven through it, and weirdly almost draws more cultural influence from classical mythology than from Christianity, because Christianity was a bit of a touchy subject at the time. And obviously there's a lot more to it than that, and it's very, very complex, and like the Elizabethan mindset is weird. But so that was bubbling away in the background, and then the final piece was circling back to the queer magic Bridgerton pitch, particularly because, again, because I'm basic as fuck. The target audience is very much fans of the Bridgerton TV show, so I wanted a Lady Whistledown equivalent.
Mhm.
Wanted the equivalent of, and actually, obviously that's quite different in the Bridgerton books. There's just like little there's little chapter toppers, whereas in the TV show there's just like constant voiceover that's slightly snarky. So I was like, oh, okay, let's do a constant, slightly snarky voiceover, and that linked into the kind of magical Shakespeareanism and the Bath curse tablets, and that led to Bath curse tablets in a magical regency narrated by Puck, obviously. So that's the mindset.
Excuse my profanity,
Mhm.
but you are fucking brilliant.
Thank you very much.
That is not. Thank you, Sophie. It's not basic. I mean, the thought process that you went from Bridgerton is popular to this? Damn! So that kind of goes into the question that PL asked, and I'm going to speed read it to see.
Go ahead.
She loved the narrative voice. Curious to know about how you chose Robin as the incredible narrator. You just said that. And the basis for world building for the magical system, which you just brought in. Were the deities chosen based on their ancient worship? Yes. And the idea of having a pantheon include Roman gods in a place that once had Roman conquerors, residents, citizens, temples. Okay, so yes, you covered it all. Look at that. You go.
Boom.
Boom.
That's
before I go back to some more of the pre-submitted questions, can we talk about this cover?
The cover is so good.
And is it Radiante Mozzarella?
I believe so. I'm not completely certain how it's pronounced, but I think that sounds about right.
So Caroline's going to throw in their website, which is, oh my gosh, I looked at that last night, and
so good.
The palette.
Yeah, no, amazing, absolutely amazing.
So
this is why you hire real artists, folks.
It is why you hire real artists to do the real art for the real cover. Absolutely. Yeah, their Instagram is gorgeous, all of their social media, and they also lent their talents to your new avatar.
They did indeed. I mean, to be clear, by lent, they were compensated for their labor, but
absolutely, as they should be.
Yes.
But it's just, it's so stunning. So did you have any for those of you who are new to this, the authors often don't have much, if any, of a role in working on their cover. They're provided it by the art director. Sometimes they get to give an opinion. Sometimes it's just slapped down and that's the way it is and you have to make your peace with it. Did you give any art notes beforehand? Did you give a sense as to what you were looking for?
So I was involved. I'm usually involved in covers. I think I'm at the level, like I'm not at the level where you just get handed something. I'm more at the level where you don't care because you know the book's going to sell a billion copies anyway. So I'm in the middle. I try to give people their heads. I think what I basically said was don't do the thing where it's silhouettes. There's this kind of book, particularly like romantasy in general. There is a trend towards what I tend to refer to as these swirly shit and silhouettes cover. And don't get me wrong, those look great. They're absolutely fantastic. But the problem is that if you're not one of the big popular books that have that kind of cover, you then just look like that kind of book. And you just look like, well, looking like that kind of book as well, but you look like you're just that book, but not as good.
Yeah, okay, fair. Did you ask them to include Mary on the cover?
I might have missed it.
Bonus points for anyone who sends in a bingo entry if they say where Mary is. I'll add that in the notes. Caroline, please help me remember. But I adore this artwork, and hoping that there is a book 2 and a book 3 and hoping that Radiante does it.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see what the 3 of them will look like lined up on my shelf or faced out on my shelf. I just cannot wait.
Yeah, there'll definitely be a book 2. Book 3 is the one that's got question marks over it.
Well, we just need to have a conversation with Del Rey, and I'm happy to be the one to do that. Speaking of things related to Mortal Follies, the playlist, which
yes,
Random House did. Did they develop that themselves, or did you do it in concert, or did you do it all by yourself?
I sent that to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you're developing a playlist, and I'm sorry, I can't remember from previous conversations.
It's okay, though, neither can I. It's
do you develop the playlist beforehand to provide you with inspiration? Do you do it during? So, or do you do it afterwards looking back on the book?
It's a little for column B, little for column C. It's mostly during, because I do genuinely listen to music while I'm writing, particularly if it's not so lyrics. If for this one, the publisher did specifically ask for a playlist, so I did make sure I had enough tracks to bulk it out to a decent length playlist. Because sometimes I will just Google for background music, instrumental covers of popular songs, that kind of thing. But there's so much of that out there. But in general, I'll be putting them together as I go, and then I'll pretty it up, if you like, for an official release if the publisher wants one.
Yeah, well, it's great, and I play it while I'm at my desk because I can't do if I'm listening to songs with lyrics, I tend to bop along a little more and lose track of what I'm doing, which is not always a great, it can be helpful if I'm trying not to work, but I'm not always trying to do that. I am going to shift to some pre-submitted questions, and then I'm going to go back to some of my own questions, and then we'll go to some audience Q&A. This is from Iris. How do you balance working a day job and also writing?
So I wanted to address this because I have actually gone brain not working. I have actually gone part-time now. My intent is to go full-time, well, 0-time day job, full-time writing kind of imminently. I think what I come back to again and again and again when I get the how do you fit so much thing in is I don't have a social life or sleep. Do not model yourself on this. This happened accidentally. I just am bad at saying no to stuff. I tend to be vague about what's going on day job wise, just because it's no one's fucking business. No offense. But just to be clear, like I have now gone part-time, and I probably wouldn't be able to work at the level I'm working if I was still working full-time. It's still a bit unsustainable. So I'm probably going to try and go 0-time / full-time writing, like as soon as possible. But that's basically it.
Okay. While I appreciate the output of the past few years and what we see coming up, I appreciate a great deal. I also think it's very important for you to do what works best for you. And
Thank you.
I also agree that it's technically not technically, it's nobody's business. And if the question, a lot of times people ask female authors, oh, how do you balance?
Oh yeah, I can imagine that being particularly awkward.
So if that's not okay,
yeah,
then the reverse can't be okay. And again, we are curious, and I think these questions come from a point of
I'm
care,
sure they do.
and you know, so Iris, I appreciate your asking the question.
Oh yeah, sorry, Iris. I wasn't intending to tell you to personally fuck off. I just
Is that on bingo? I don't think that's on bingo. Maybe that's the free space.
I just mean that like I am a little bit vague about my personal.
No, I mean everybody should have a right to have boundaries wherever they are.
Mhm.
And Iris, I see. No, it was not invasive. We had a conversation beforehand, and that this is an important question to ask because people are curious.
If I intended to answer it at all, then I would just not answer it at all.
Yeah. Here is one from Andy. What book or poem or idea has made you think, I wish I had written that?
Interesting one. That's an impulse I don't get very often. I think because what I like in all media is things that kind of are the thing they are and are themselves. And almost by definition, that means being a sort of a product of a place and a time, and usually of the creator's experiences. Again, I'm also a believer in death of the author, so you can't project too much personal experience stuff onto things. But I don't think you can. Almost by definition, anything that I like, I'm glad the person who created it, because I think if I'd created it, it'd be different and I wouldn't like it as much. I mean, the only real exceptions are like, I mean, the two joke exceptions I have are a Warlock of Firetop Mountain, because I would have loved to have invented the game book trend. That would have been fun. And I don't want to crap on very successful authors, but like something along the lines of like the Da Vinci Code, I would love to have written, because I don't think there's a huge, like, I have a huge respect for what Dan Brown does, because he does it very, very well. But what he does is writes books to sell in airports and make millions of dollars. And I would love to make millions of dollars.
There. Sorry, Hannah, I'm not going down that route. Here is a question from Sophie. What was your favorite part about having Puck as the book's narrator?
Partly it's just a fun voice to write in, because good media gets to be rude about things, and I try to avoid being rude about things most of the time. I like the opportunity to do. There's a lot of very meta, very fourth wall stuff, which is a bit cheap. But again, I think one of the things I like is because he's quite a cheap person, really. So
I mean, reading it was just laugh out loud.
Oh, thank you so much.
And also some like really pointed commentary.
That's the other nice thing is you could do your commentary by just saying it. It means you have to do any of that stupid show don't tell stuff, which is very overrated. It also lets you, like, one of the things I liked, I've wanted for a while to do something that really plays with the narrator engaging with the text. And I'm kind of neck deep in book 2 at the moment. There's more of that in book 2. Like, you have bits in so there's the bit where they go to assembly rooms, and because he's visible now. Sorry, I'm using he him pronouns for Puck because that seems to be normal for like kind of the general thing. Although actually I don't think Puck has a gender identity because they don't care. So all the narration's going on out loud, and part of the conceit in my head of how Puck works is that Puck is literally like doing almost like asides and shakes, like you know the bits in like in Midsummer Night's Dream, which you just recently reread, where it'll just be like narrating his actions, or doing the thing where you like kind of you hide behind a pot plant, or by strict convention no one can see you. So that's the notion, and there's a lot of like little silly things where like it you can just play with the fact that in this book the narrator is technically a person. Now, one of the things we talked about earlier was like the big list of new words, and one of the things I noticed fantasy publishers in particular, because they used to made up words being a thing, is you get a huge list of like words in the text and details and things like that. You don't always get from non-fantasy publishers. And one of the things on the form I got from Del Rey was specifically it has a narration style. Obviously, it's usually like first person, third person, so on. And this one was labeled as first person omniscient brackets magical storytelling being close brackets, which I thought was great.
That is fantastic. Going back to that list of words.
Yes.
Sometimes in fantasy, I struggle because the words pull me out of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was probably 15 years ago, a children's book, and all the words in the world like had X's and Z's and very few consonants.
Yeah.
And I finally was just like, I can't finish this book because it just keeps pulling me out. But that didn't happen with the list of words that you made me learn. I like they fully, like, again, it's your skill. It seamlessly fits into the narration and the dialogue and the description. Of course, I mean, I accept, you could have told me that iridescent wasn't a word, and I've been like, all right, fine, but that's a word. Because you're basing it in the roots of the language.
Yeah, most of it is either real words or made up words and very obvious. I think most of the made up words are myspical, actually, but a lot of that is just jokes. Like, a lot of that is just clear jokes. Right,
and they're fantastic. Also, because I'm not giving any spoilers, but Miss Bickle dealing with the conundrum set that that Malus had to face near the end were so brilliant. And I just, wow. The last quarter of the book with her, specifically the walnut. Anyway.
That's a real thing from Real Fairy Tale.
I'm sure it is, but it just, Alexis, it's so good. It's so good. One more follow-up from Sophie. In terms of the approach, was writing Mortal Follies more similar to writing your historical romance Regencies or your steampunk prosperity verse?
It feels like a bit of a cop-out to say it's pretty much in the middle, but it's pretty much in the middle. I think it shades slightly closer to the historical side. I will say, as always, depending on the historical romance Regencies, those are also kind of gone, particularly things like the Something series, which I obviously haven't done talks about because of Amazon.
It's okay. Those are great books. I love them.
People like them very much, but they are produced by a company that is evil. I just like money. But those are very much a gonzo romp that has at best a tenuous connection to real history. And then I don't apologize for a lot of time writing books that have a tenuous connection to real history, because this isn't a history lesson, it's fiction. I am not claiming to be showing you what real history was like. I draw on historical inspirations for things kind of at random. I also draw inspiration from, movies and in-jokes and internet memes. So it was a little bit more like doing an actual historical, in that I wanted to make sure that people had roughly the right kind of food, roughly the right kind of clothing, bearing in mind that sometimes the clothing is made by fairies. Part of the joke with the clothing made by fairies is it's just a joke about machine sewn costumes in historical dramas on TV. Yes. Like that's so it's like that.
And on that note, you said the food, the scene in the confectioners. Mm-hmm. And then the scene in the bath where Malus is in some peril were so horrible. I mean, the horror I felt
in a positive way, I assume.
But it was so visceral. Mm-hmm. You did such a great job.
Thank you.
As these things were happening, it was like oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Anyway, there I am.
It's very hard to tell how those things will land, because obviously from the inside, it's like with mysteries. It's like from the inside you can't tell what kind of reaction it is, because obviously, yeah.
No, you did, and there are some. I mean, it's a fantasy, so there often is horror in fantasy, but those Ugh. Um, totally digressing, but
Yeah,
question
that's
from
fine.
Katie.
Mhm.
What is or would be Robin's favorite Taylor Swift song?
Oh gosh. I think The Last Great American Dynasty, or Dynasty as we pronounce it. Thank you, mortals. Just because it's about someone who fucks shit up and gives no fucks, essentially.
Fair. Here is a deep one from C. Here we go. There's a lot of language, but you've seen it before, but I'm sharing it with the class.
Yeah.
The word three appears almost 50 times in the book, slightly more than the occurrences of true or truth. Many things are listed or happen in threes, and Robin says twice that what he tells us 3 times is true. Given that, one, we are all complex creatures, not unlike unquantifiable and moving monoliths, and two, the best place to put a lie is between 2 truths. Could you please talk about the role of truth in this story or stories, metafiction in general?
Yes, as much as I could. This will go rambly and digressive. The first thing I say is I am a little bit terrified that someone did. I know I know they didn't do it manually. I should just Control Left in a
Electronic
what's it called?
document.
Electronic document. That's what I'm looking for. I was gonna like a PDF. It's not PDF, is it? But I am a little bit terrified that people are going to look at this in detail because so the what I tell you 3 times is true thing. When I put that in, I did say to myself, you are making a rod to your own back because people are going to go and check how many times Robin says everything. um, I think my defense on that is going to be do you remember the film Labyrinth?
Yes.
There's a bit where Sarah encounters the 2 guards doing the one of us always tells the truth, one of us always lies riddle,
Uh-huh.
and she does get the correct answer, but then she walks through a thing and falls down a hole. Um, and apparently there is debate within the Labyrinth fandom about what's going on there, but the conclusion that I am under the impression that the fandom has reached is that riddle doesn't work when the people who explain the rules to you are the same people. Because if they might just be lying about what the rules are. In the same way, my defense on the "what I tell you 3 times is true" thing is that that's what Robin tells you, but Robin's one telling the story. In terms of like metafiction and the so this links back to the what did you like about having Robin as a narrator thing, and I like meta bullshit because I'm fucking basic. And one of the things I really wanted to do was to play with I hate the term unreliable narration because I think it tends to be a slightly wanky term, but was to play with a story where the narrator is definitely telling you the story and the narrator is clearly not very trustworthy and the narrator is clearly to some extent getting involved in the story, and to take kind of a playful approach to that because obviously on the absolute top level, and this is why actually like the high level discussion about what unreliable narration is actually really interesting. At the absolute top level, obviously it's made up because um because okay, as far as you know, Mortal, I am not actually a shape-shifting fairy exiled to the physical world. So and obviously the story is framed as being set in the past, but in a version of the past where magic and gods are real, which again, as far as you know, Mortal, they aren't in the version of the world you experience. So on that level, none of it's true. And then you have kind of level beneath that where there is the buying in just enough that you accept the framing device, which is that I actually am a shape-shifting fairy, which I am, who is telling you a story in this world as an exile from the court of Oberon, but the entire story might be made up. And then you sort of dig deeper into that where you're like, oh, okay, but then if you accept that, then again, it becomes a bit pointless. So you kind of have to accept that on some level, you have to at least accept the terms of the story you're being told by that character, which is that these characters exist and are people. But then there are definitely bits where he says he's lying to you. There's a bit, and again, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, where he just kind of outright says well, it would be too much of a coincidence for this to happen, but it's my story, so fuck it, and then narrates the exact thing he said wouldn't have happened. There are definitely bits where he definitely does just lie to the reader.
Right.
Well, yeah, there are definitely like there are. Okay, let's put it this way. I don't. I mean, as always, death of the author is a thing. There are, from my perspective, bits of the book where it is fairly clear that Puck is saying the opposite of what is true. Almost in a doesn't expect to be believed way. Now I'm not going to tell you which bits I think those are.
Right.
Because they're going to be different for everyone. But yeah, Puck definitely lies to the reader in the book. And you have to decide for yourself which bits you accept are true for the purposes of the story. Whether that be the very top end, and you have to accept the basic premise, which is that the narrator is a fairy, and you kind of have to accept the lower level premise, which is that the story is the people who the story is about are as real within the story as any other fictional people are within any other fictional story you've read. And from there, it's all up for grabs.
Yeah.
And yes, the threes thing is also deliberate. The one I say 3 times is through thing comes back in again, as always, everything's subject to change, but there's in book 2 as it currently exists in my my manuscript at the moment has a lot more of Puck interacting with people that know what the fuck's going on, and there's a couple of bits there where he'll say something and people will straight up say that twice more.
Wow.
So there's more. Oh, again, but this is within a story that Puck is narrating, so could just be lying to you. The real words of the oath aren't necessarily the words that's in the book, and also obviously the oath isn't real because it's all fictional because I made it up. But also, I'm actually an immortal fairy who's exiled to this world of flesh and sputum. So
Yeah,
it's deliberately a kind of a smorgasbord of take it as you think. I think is
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I love about your work is that you can read Mortal Follies on the surface and and read it and enjoy it on a surface level. Or you can engage with it more deeply and on a closer read. And it opens up. It's just it's so much more satisfying.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I will issue the single caveat that there is a level of close reading that will not be supported. That is in the sense that this isn't a puzzle and it's not solvable.
No. But the fact that C could get that and enjoy that and go on that deep dive is a gift to the reader.
Oh no, absolutely, and that level of engagement is absolutely intentional. I just want to warn people: please don't try and work out exactly what Puck is lying about, because there's not a secret code in there.
You haven't hidden a treasure somewhere?
Not that you know
of. Okay, turning away a little bit from Mortal Follies. Who is this? Valerie would like to know, how do you handle negative criticism and not let it stop you from creating? Do you have any tips for creators?
I have no tips. I'm really bad at it. It's a process. It's a process. I don't want to pretend I've got a magic wand because I don't. I don't want to pretend that I don't want to pretend that it doesn't affect me because it absolutely does. Because I'm quite a sensitive person. Also, I'm I like to not be an asshole, so I don't want to write things that kind of people find hurtful. But the flip side of that is that there's not a consensus on what's hurtful, and people are people react to things differently. One of the things that's there's 2 XKCD strips I think that kind of sum it up pretty well actually, which is there's one from quite a while ago which has 2 people arguing on the internet in little stick figures in different boxes. I don't know if you read XKCD. And then a little angel comes down, picks one up and carries them over so they actually see the other person and realize they're a real human being, and then they just stop arguing. And that's part of it. The other XKCD strip is a later one, which has a lot more exposition, because later XKCD tends to have more exposition, which points out that actually the thing about people who disagree with you online or in review spaces is 99% of them are sincere people who are coming at it sincerely from their own space, and even if they have a very strong criticism, that's their own thing. And 1% of them are just pricks. Like, trolls are a thing. And you do have to recognize that, like, and I think if I had, it's kind of a double thing. Like, because the way this question sometimes gets phrased is, how do you deal with the haters? And I like to to me, it's not helpful to believe in haters. I don't think I'm sure there are people who just systemically hate everything a particular person does. That is a hobby that some people have. But I like to assume sincerity. I like to assume that if someone is saying something negative about the book, they probably mean it. They probably think they're being helpful. I might respectfully disagree about whether they're being helpful, or whether they're expressing it in a helpful way, or whether it's helpful to express it to my face. But I think assume sincerity, be aware of the possibility they're just being an asshole, I think is roughly the mindset I try to have, and I don't always succeed.
That's fair. And I sometimes wonder if, because of your talent, but also your luck and the timing of things, that people sometimes see you not as supernatural, but as someone with extraordinary powers. And who knows, maybe Puck's writing all of this. I don't know. But it makes it easy to wonder things.
I think
when instead we should just allow you. We should be grateful for the work, grateful for the pace at which it's coming out, and admire you and your creative process.
That's very kind of you. So obviously I do in fact have seen it. So I'm not. I think in some ways I think it's more simple than that, which I think it is just. I'm not. I don't buy fully into monkey sphere theory. Sorry, are you familiar with monkey sphere theory?
Yes, but explain for the class.
So assuming we're talking about the same thing, it's the idea that primates in general have social groups that they're kind of biologically programmed to interact with, and if you work it out by looking at like brain structure and things, humans can cope with about 150 unique individuals, I think is roughly the answer, or roughly the number. It varies depending on who you look at, and once you've got beyond 150 unique individuals, that's just outside the monkey sphere. That's outside what you as a primate are capable of recognizing as a real individual. And I think the thing about, I say famous people, I am not famous, like by famous person standards. I'm famous by, like, most moderately successful YouTubers are more famous than I am. Beard Meets Food is a lot more famous than I am. But anyone who you interact with in a public figure-y way, and people do interact with me in a public figure-y way, because fundamentally my interaction with fans is I make a product they buy, which has my name on it, unlike people who make, other products you buy, like, tacos or cars. And that puts me in this weird space where I'm kind of a person, but I'm kind of not a real person. Because in the same way that, again, being no disrespect to all the wonderful people who are, in chat right now, in an extent, these are not entirely real people to me. No, again, just because your name's on the screen, I don't know you.
Yes.
You're not part of my life. I'm not part of your life, and that's how it should be.
Yes.
Like, parasocial relationships are a problem.
Yes.
And I'm someone who comes on here and talks for a bit, and who you say nice things to, and that's very kind of you. But we don't know each other, and that means people often treat you like you're sort of an object, because in a very real sense you sort of are.
Yeah, you absolutely are right. Thank you for your wisdom. I've got
You're welcome, Mortal.
Thank you, Robin. There's so many questions left to go. I do want to cover a couple things because
Go ahead.
one question from Emily, who I'm not going to read the whole question, but do you have any, it's about video games. Do you have any recommendations for resources to learn about gaming for beginners and games that are accessible for beginner who knows no gamers?
Interesting one. So the problem with this question is, I'm sorry again, my apologies, Emily, I don't mean this in a negative way, is that asking how to get into gaming is kind of like asking how to get into reading. Like,
Okay.
It's so vast. The other thing I'd say is just from a sort of an almost political standpoint, I think it's really like one of the things that's difficult about gamer culture is that gamer culture doesn't view 99% of the games people actually play as games. Like if you play Candy Crush on your phone, you are gaming. That is the majority of gaming people do. That's what games companies make. It depends on what you're into. If you are into books, which I assume you are, otherwise this would be a weird place for you to be, then visual novels are a really good jumping off point. So that's a visual novel is usually basically just often it can just be a straight up novel just with graphics, but with some decision points that either branch the story or don't even branch the story.
Okay.
And you could look at recommendations of visual novels, depends on what you're into. Again, visual novels like novels come in a range of genres. There's, if you want to step a little bit beyond that, then RPGs are quite a good. That's role-playing games are often quite good because they're often quite story-driven. I know people who basically only play BioWare games. BioWare. It's a company that makes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a company that makes what I would tend to refer to as Western RPGs as opposed to JRPGs, Japanese RPGs. They did a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons stuff back in the day. They very famously did Baldur's Gate. More recently, they've done. I say more recently. I actually mean about a decade ago now because we're all very, very, very old. They did the Mass Effect trilogy, which was very, very well received, apart from the ending, which was very, very badly received, but it's still really good. I promise it's still really good. And which you can also get fairly cheap now. I guess cheapish. Like AAA games never really dipped too low in price, but like I think you can get the whole trilogy for like under 50 quid. I can't remember. It's a long time since I bought it. And the Dragon Age series, which again, very, very good. And those are traditional, slightly D&D style. Okay, I say, okay. Dragon Age is slightly D&D style, so it's you have humans and elves and dwarves, and you fight monsters, but also there's a genuinely really good story. It's set in a sort of Dragon Age is from the like kind of okay. Do you remember like I think it even started slightly before Game of Thrones TV show got big, but like in the late 2010s, late 2000s, early 2010s, like fantasy got really like not your granddad's fantasy that fucks. And so it's very much that style. So it's got dwarfs and elves, but like they swear. It's actually genuinely really good. But it's quite Game of Thronesy, weirdly.
Great.
And Mass Effect is more of a shooter, but you can pause it. Like I know people who've played it like very casually in co-op. And that's science fiction. It's blasting aliens in space. But you also get to kiss people in it, which is important.
Absolutely. Kissing is very important.
Yeah.
Hey, quick question from Zachary. Why are Alexis's book plates sometimes signed YH?
Because I have terrible handwriting. It's because AJ sometimes looks like a Y if you've had to sign 7,000 book plates, which I sometimes have.
Which you sometimes have, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, yours are usually less than that number, which is
it is, but it's still better. You have to sign a lot of book plates.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry. You get to sign a lot of book plates for us.
I'll be honest. I'm comfortable with have to on that one because as wonderful as it is to be appreciated, as wonderful it is to engage, the physical act of actually signing kills your wrist.
I know, and if that has to change, I get it. I'm not saying it. I get it. Because we need to protect your wrists.
Yeah, I think small indie stores are always going to be fine. It's the bigger crates get more complex.
Yeah. So you talked about the weather in the UK right now is hot, and then it's going to storm, and then it might flood, which gives me a great segue.
Oh, of course.
So you have 2 upcoming books.
Yes.
That have publication dates. I know there is more work in the future, and friends, it is always available on Alexis's website, which is organized beautifully and intuitively and is the best author website of all author websites. So in October, you have 10 things.
That's correct.
And Mary's emoji for 10 things is the best emoji ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then in February, you have Waiting for Flood.
Yes.
So friends, those are the 2 upcoming. If you look on Blue Willow's pre-order page, it tells you how to order them. Just throwing that out there so we can give Alexis's wrist a tiny bit of a workout, because we do anticipate book plates for both of those books, and we do anticipate swag for both of those books.
Excellent.
And I'll send you that link also. Upcoming work we've done, we've talked about that. Oh, I do have one question from someone named Mary, also known as a queen, a legend. How does ink come out of pens, Alexis?
I have no idea. I think it might be something to do with capillary action.
I speaking on behalf of your fans, we are so grateful for Mary. So Mary, I know you're in the background listening. I love you. You're the best ever. Okay, going back to questions. Do you have, I always love hearing what you're reading or what you are excited about that's coming out. Do you have any recommendations?
So as always, the reason I review is because otherwise I do forget books the moment I've read them, because that is how my brain works. So do go and look at my Goodreads. I've recently really loved The Death I Gave Him by MXVO. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a future set, heavily queer Hamlet riff where Horatio is an AI. Ophelia has actual agency. It's not out until September, but it should absolutely be on your radar. I'm sorry, one of the difficult things about asking me for book recs is that very, very often, because I do a lot of I read a lot of arcs these days.
Right.
So I'll often say, there's this, it's not out yet.
But it's out in September, and we will send you that link. If Caroline, I think Caroline's going to paste it into the conversation, but we will also send you that link. And I read the description and was just like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
Yeah, no, amazing. It's a good
Any
example.
others?
I can give you some more if you like. I was going to say it's a really good example of a book I loved but don't wish I'd written, because if I'd written it, it would have been different and not as good. Since we're kind of in vaguely a romantasy space, we're talking about Mortal Follies. I really like The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. It's charming, it's weird, it's kind of vaguely westerny while also being about a family funeral home and stuff. I like the characters themselves have a really tender, really vulnerable love story, and it's a very kind book, which I like, as opposed to my book, which is written by an amoral ex-fairy.
So Heart and Mercy does it get icky because they're zombies?
No, that's going to depend on your. That's going to vary from person to person.
Right, of course, but like, okay, that answers that. Is it in any way epistolary? Is
it epistolary?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, you're way my way.
I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a little epistolary, but not hugely.
Okay. Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does.
I will say also, it's worth putting out with pronunciation. With pronunciation, you really shouldn't learn from me, for reasons I hope are not. I'm very much like. Let's be clear. I did not go to a posh school. I did not learn the correct way to pronounce things. So, epistolary might be right. I say epistolary. I do not know if that's correct.
Does it have letters in it?
Yes.
And then, did you have one more to recommend?
Yes. So I basically can't do a Rex thing without recommending Chris Ripper, who is one of my favorite writers of all time. My rec for today is The Hate Project, which is one of Ripper's rom-com books. Ripper, like me, just does a whole range of stuff all over the place, and it's all good. I wouldn't want to say it's all good about my own work, of course.
I read the Love Study. But I haven't read The Hate Project, so I'm very excited.
It's great. It's Grumpy Sunshine without the sunshine, basically.
That's fantastic, and I'm excited for it. I want to be respectful of your time.
I mean, genuinely, I'm completely fine. This was my thing for this evening. I don't want you to overrun. Of course, I appreciate you're an actual shop and you have actual business to do. If you have other things to fill out.
This is my job today, my friend. I mean, if we can go a little longer, I'll go a little longer. I just want to be
completely fine to go a little longer. That's absolutely fine.
okay. Well, thank you for your kindness on that. I'm going to switch back to some. Hang on. Of that, let's see. Okay, we're on the note of recommendations. Callie wants to know if you have any board games to recommend.
Oh, good Lord. The board game I've been playing most recently isn't a board game at all. It's the Arkham Horror Living card game, which I blogged about years ago now, and I've gone way down the rabbit hole of. Very, very briefly, living card games are like collectible card games, which like Magic the Gathering, except the cards aren't randomized, so you only have to buy the damn things once, instead of being like crack for gamers.
Got it.
It's really, really good. It's I think it is some of the best like kind of game storytelling I've seen in a non-video game format. Video games get to cheat by having, actors and shit. Whereas the Arkham Horror Living card game, it's all written on tiny cards. It's a deck building game, so you have to customize your decks. It's got a lot of depth of gameplay. It's I will say this is a recommendation if you want to spend a lot of money, like a lot of money. It is a hobby, not a game.
Okay.
But it's really good fun. And they've just shifted their release model, so you can now get the expansions in one big box rather than having to buy them in little separate packs, which is a lot easier.
Okay. Excellent. Monica would like to know if you were a gossiping sprite that could change form into anything in order to eavesdrop on conversations, what would you change into? Not Puck or Robin. What would you change into?
Obviously, I transform into a human romance novelist. If it was the purpose of eavesdropping on conversations, obviously the answer is I wouldn't, because that would be grossly unethical. I think I might go cat. Cats get away with murder.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Like I'm a big believer. Terry Pratchett, I think, once said that if cats looked like frogs, we'd see them for what they were. And I'm very much of that opinion.
Hang on, I'm writing that down. You got several questions about Jasper's story. You want to address that?
Yeah, so that's obviously all of the rights for the Spires series are held by Sourcebooks now. I can see no reason that wouldn't be in the forthcoming re-release of For Real. I just don't. I'm phobic about making promises in case stuff goes wrong.
Right.
Like you never know, something weird could happen. But the intent going forward is to have bonus content in all of them, and that will almost certainly be the bonus content in that. But I can no longer do a giveaway with it or a download of it because it's not I don't have the rights anymore.
No, because Sourcebooks has the rights, and we're very grateful that Sourcebooks has the rights to the Spire series because it means we're getting these beautiful physical books.
Thank you very much.
Okay, couple things. I'm now looking at the submitted Q&A. Dobbs is wondering, at the riddles towards the end, you mentioned that the walnut was from a fairy tale. Did you develop any of them independently, or did you use fairy tales and mythology for your inspiration?
Lit from column A, lit from column B. So let me have a think. Again, this is going to go into spoiler territory, so if you want to stop listening for I don't know, someone put in chat when I've stopped talking about spoilers. So Moon and Silver Cup, weirdly, I think that might have been loosely inspired by a video game. The neither walking nor riding, neither on land nor sea, that's directly from actual mythology, and the solution to neither clothed nor naked really is wearing a fishing net, because the solution to these things are often bollocks. The most terrible thing in the world, obviously, that's a story beat.
Yeah, I read it, but then when I heard NECA say it, I was just like, oh my gosh. Wow, that was very powerful.
Thank you very much.
Eliza.
Spoiler time has ended. Someone say that, please.
Elisa just wanted to comment that she really appreciated that Melis's epiphany of queerness was not the source of any of the drama in the book.
Oh, thank you.
And that is, again, one of the wonderful things about your work that we see across your work. Is
Yes,
that is not the point of drama.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I occasionally get complaints about that, especially in the historical stuff. Like,
For the love of all that's holy, do I have to go on that rant again?
I might have to be a perma rant, to be honest. But
I mean,
like,
okay, let me just say this. They're your fucking books. And if you want to write them, you write them. And if people want to read them, they read them, or they check them out from the library, or they buy them. And if they don't want to, then they don't have to, and they should keep their yaps shut.
thank you, Kathy.
I'm serious. You know how I get up. No, anyway.
Yeah.
No. That is just baloney. So I appreciate that you have that in your books because it focuses on the story and it focuses on the plot or the joy or whatever, which is what any human being deserves, is to see themselves in a book.
Thank you.
All right. This is an interesting question from DJ. Perhaps this question has already been asked and it hasn't, DJ, so I'm asking it now. Alexis, you are so adept at riding the crest of the trends. How do you do this? I imagine it takes a lot of research. Are you hoping to have books with queer characters in every genre, so there's always a safe and inclusive book for people to read in these many styles? Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you. So there's two separate questions here. On writing the question of trends, I try and keep my finger on the pulse. I also try. So part of it is I throw a lot of stuff on the wall and see what sticks. Part of it is I pay a lot of attention to what's on TV because particularly in the modern world, I think what's big on TV tends to sometimes lead what's big in books next. Sometimes I got lucky, like with boyfriend material, like I had an awareness that rom-com was getting big. I didn't know that. Thank you, lovely, beautiful. I did not necessarily know that queer rom-com was going to explode the way it had. There's a thing that I have that I don't know works, and I haven't actually tried because I think it works better in Het and MF, is to pay attention to what fanfic pairings are big. Basically, so much of what I'm seeing is popular now seems to be directly Raylo inspired, but that's not really a place I'm particularly interested in going. In terms of providing safe and inclusive spaces for people across genres, I do really want to highlight I'm not the only person doing this, guys.
No, you're not. You're not. But we're here listening to you.
Yes, that's fair. I just like to remind you that other brands are available. But I'm pretty much in all the genres I'd like to be in now. I have a couple of science fiction ideas. Part of it is just a copious free time thing. I'm running out of hours in the day. I'm not a huge I don't think I'm a good fit for horror. I'm not going to say never. And there are some like horror's a broad genre. I'm one of those people who think with horror is either it's not working, in which case what's the point, or it is working, in which case I'm having a negative emotional experience. So but it depends on the kind of horror. And science fiction, I have less of an into that, but I have a couple of things that are kind of vaguely floating around. I was watching the 2011 Three Musketeers movie that everyone hates the other day, and the phrase of a cyberpunk popped into my head, and I thought that would be great, but again, for deep in the future.
I am waiting for deep into the future.
I mean,
I will be patient.
That's probably a good plan because I have a lot of projects to get through.
Yes, there are other authors doing wonderful work, and any independent bookstore or library would be more than happy to help you. And you can also look at Alexis's Goodreads to see what he thinks, because there is some great stuff out there. There really, really is. I am looking to see. I think we're good there. Okay, here's one from Natalie. If we were to pretend something and a lady for a duke, oh my God, sorry, digressing, Natalie, that mass market cover, Alexis Hall,
So good.
so good.
Yeah.
If we were to pretend that something and a lady for a duke were in the same universe as Mortal Follies, would the characters ever be able to cross each other's paths based solely on the year and their London haunts? Also, a fan theory says that Robin was the bee in something.
That's a perfectly valid fan theory. Okay, let me think. So sorry, I'm going to overthink this now. Robin can obviously be anywhere because Robin can put a girl around the earth in 40 minutes. So that's on the table.
Right.
And may well indeed have been the bee in something. That's an excellent fan theory. Gracewood is specific. Oh, hang on, no. Yeah, because so probably so Mortal Follies is, I mean, it depends what you mean by the characters, if you see what I mean. Mortal Follies is set about 3 years before Lady for a Duke, because it's before Waterloo.
Yeah.
Whereas for very important plot reasons, Lady for a Duke is after Waterloo. Those the Mortal Follies characters will be around in London at the same time that Viola and Gracewood are in London in 1818. But that's obviously well past the end of either book 1 or book 2. I mean, if this goes full Bridgerton and winds up being a 10-book series, they'll eventually overlap. But that's not super likely. Again, depends on sales. Buy the book. Buy my books. Probably. I mean, again, this gets complicated because it leads to questions of violent life force transition, which I don't like to ask too many questions about. But they would probably have been interacting with similar social circles, because again, it depends on how because the thing is, Regency society is very, very stratified, and since Gracewood is like literally a duke. On the other hand, the the Mitchells, I mean, Miss Mitchell was Noel's granddaughter, but then again, like her mother and her aunt both married very much beneath him on the social belt, so it becomes very complicated. Basically, they're all complicated people have their own complicated things going on, so it's a little bit difficult. And obviously, Valentine is also a duke, and again, similar sets. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure it's specified what year something is set in. Thinking about it, I don't think it's in the book. I'm trying to. Yeah, so that's potentially more likely, and obviously, Mr. Cesar John in Mortal Follies does very specifically interact with Regency gay culture, which Bonnie at least definitely strongly interacts with. Obviously, Valentine doesn't in the first book, and kind of doesn't afterwards either, because once he and Bonnie are together, they're just kind of their own thing. So they've got their own little found family, but they aren't going to be going to Molly houses together or anything. Also, footnote: Molly houses are becoming less of a thing because, but also, it's a fucking magical universe. Some things are slightly anachronistic.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I know that we love seeing people from other books showing up, people from previous books showing up in other books. I think my head might explode if that happened in your universes, but it would be a very glorious explosion.
I've always thought it was semi-canon that the Affair of the Mysterious Letter takes place in the same universe as all other fiction.
Yeah. Oh my God. Stop it. You're making my brain like, I am running through these. I think we're pretty good. I think we've answered a lot of questions. Everybody, if we didn't get to your questions, I do save them. I do send them to Alexis so he can review them. And if he feels so inspired, he might talk about them in some way or some form.
I may.
Let me say to everyone watching, y'all are great. Thank you so much. Speaking for the bookstore and for my colleagues, we are so grateful to all of you for supporting us and for supporting Alexis. Every single interaction we have with you is just lovely, and it really brings us a great deal of joy. So we appreciate that so much. Alexis Hall, You bring us a lot of joy too.
Thank you so much.
I can't overstate it. I'm very, very glad to be part of a world that you inhabit.
That's very kind of you.
I do what I can. Everybody, like I said, I'm gonna end this so Caroline can edit it and get it uploaded onto YouTube.
Oh, when are you reviewing the bingo cards?
Oh, okay. So bingo cards. Hang on. I'm pulling up the instructions. Good point. Thank you for calling back to that. Hang on. This show document is 5 pages long. All right. The bingo cards, let me back up. YouTube is going to be, it'll be uploaded to YouTube tonight, American time. You will have until 11:59 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, June 22nd to submit your completed card to me. I'll have the email address and the subject line in the email that we send you. It is also on the event page. Winning requires at least 1 row of bingo, horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. The winner will be drawn at random from the emails received on Friday, June 23rd. The winner will receive a $20 e-gift code to Blue Willow Bookshop.
Ooh.
We're not limited into the US. And it might, like, if it's international, it's going to cost, shipping is going to cost equally that much. So it's up to you whether or not you want to accept it or pass it on to someone who's US based. Anyone completing blackout, all the card, every square filled gets bragging rights, but no additional entries. Alexis, as soon as this is done, I'm going to send you the bingo card so you and I can see what's on it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Everybody, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Such a joy. Mary, you're a hero. Caroline, you're also a hero. I hope you all have a great evening, afternoon, whatever there is. I'm so grateful to all of you. Take care.
Goodbye. Farewell, mortals.
Bye, Robin.